Hello and welcome to Let's Give It a Shot, a show where we talk about the latest in the week that was of sports. Joining me is Matthew Malandruccolo. How's it going, Matt?
Good, how are you?
How was your weekend?
Very good weekend.
That's good.
Getting used to the weather here. It's cold in Toronto.
Right on. Well, we had a very exciting week of sports. On Sunday, the CFL 103rd Grey Cup took place in Winnipeg, where the Edmonton Eskimos came on top in a nail-biting Grey Cup game win over the Ottawa Red Blacks. In the game, Matt Riley was named the MVP, but he wasn't named the MOP, Matt. Do you think he should have been named the MOP for the CFL?
Well, that is a good question, Tyler, but the only thing that was hurting for him was probably because he returned from injury. He started the year, and then he got hurt the first week, I think it was, and then he came back. He was undefeated as a starter, 10-0, and they did win probably because of his play. But since he did not get the whole season under his belt, I think that kind of hurt him. And like you said, Burris got it, so the Ottawa quarterback, and I don't know. That is a tough question. What do you think?
Well, I think he was definitely deserving of it. There's no doubt about that. But if you look at what Burris did, he took the Ottawa Red Blacks from a 2-7 team, I believe they were last season, all the way to the Grey Cup this year. They made some major moves in the offseason that got them to that Grey Cup. But there's no doubt that Henry Burris was a leader for that Ottawa Red Blacks team and definitely led them all the way to that Grey Cup championship game on Sunday. There's no reason why Riley shouldn't have got it, but I mean, he was a Grey Cup champion, and he ended up winning the MVP for the Grey Cup. So I think in the end, it kind of played out in both ways. Speaking of Burris, now he did win, like I mentioned, won the MOP. Now there's only been 14 players in CFL history since the MOP award was inducted in 1953. To win the Grey Cup and the MOP award in the same year.
Well, it could have, but I think with him, with the experience and the veteran that he is, I don't think it bothered him that much. I think after the game, what he said was phenomenal about how his team is a very young team, and they came back from a second year in the league now. Last year wasn't very good. They came back, and this year they shocked the CFL. Like he said, no one picked them to make it the finals. So I think just to be there, they were happy as a team, kind of the underdogs, and they were very well in the game the whole game. They could have easily won that game. Just a couple things didn't go their way. But speaking of Burris, I just don't think it bothered him. He looked pretty confident, and the second half, they just didn't score any points offensively, and I think that hurt him at the end of the day, and he said that too. We just have to score. Our defense played well, and we didn't score for them.
Yeah, speaking of, they got off to that hot start for sure, scoring 13 points in the first, 10 minutes of the game, and then you're right after that, their offense kind of just slowed down. Yeah. Speaking of sticking with this, the Grey Cup game, now the game came down to a pass interference call right at the end that Edmonton ended up taking a timeout, questioning it, and then they did throw the challenge, and they challenged the call on the play. Now, this is a new rule by the CFL this year where coaches can challenge a pass interference call. Do you think it's a good rule? I mean, you saw on Sunday that pretty much ultimately decided the 103rd Grey Cup. Do you like the rule? Do you think it's a good rule?
I personally don't like the rule for two examples. In that play, why I didn't like it is that they were able to call a timeout to get that extra 30 seconds to talk to people upstairs to see if they could challenge. Now, what I understood is that if you call a timeout, that should be like a play. And you shouldn't be able to challenge, you should be able to have to challenge that on the spot. They got kind of lucky with that because then they were able to spend that timeout asking if they should challenge. And obviously they got the word, yeah, let's do it. And then that was a big play in the game, like you said. And I personally don't believe in that call because pass interference is a very subjective call. And to replay it and then look it over 10 times, you can honestly call pass interference any play of the game if you look at it. So I just think it should be the ref's call at the time, and then whatever angle the ref has and whatever he sees, he calls. I don't know. I just don't completely agree with it. I don't know how about you.
I think it's good because they're getting the right call. I think it's good that they're replaying and getting the right call. But I do agree with you. I think once Edmonton took that timeout, that's it. I don't think they should be allowed to take a second, see what the upstairs is saying on their side, on their team, and then be able to challenge the play. I like the idea because it's getting the call right, and that's what it's all about. Because obviously, as we've seen in the NFL, refereeing hasn't been the best, and it's tough to ref. But I think it's good that they're getting the right call. But I just don't think that should have been allowed for them to take a timeout. It should have been, if they wanted to challenge it, they had to challenge it right away. They couldn't do that timeout. I think once anything happens after the play, whether that be a timeout, whatever, I don't think they should be challenging it. But like I said, they did get the right call. It clearly was pass interference, and that's how the game goes, right? So I think it was definitely a good call. But I think they need to look at the rule a little bit more and give it a little bit more context. I think it was a pretty good showing. I think the 103rd Grey Cup went off really well. Fall Out Boy did a great job at halftime. So I think there's no complaints. I think it was a good Grey Cup. We're going to go to break, but coming back after, we're going to talk a little bit NFL. Welcome back to Let's Give It a Shot. So next up, we're going to talk a little NFL. Big game on Sunday night as the Broncos played the Pats. The Pats are looking to stay undefeated against the Broncos, who are without Peyton Manning. The Broncos were able to come away with a tight win and hand the Pats their first loss of the season. Matt, what do you think was the key in the Broncos defeating the Pats on Sunday night?
Well, I just think they kept Brady in check for the most part. They limited his offensive success. And Gronk went out, and when that happened, they just didn't have a lot of options offensively. And you could see Brady was kind of trying to see what he could do. And luckily for them, they came out today and said he shouldn't be out for more than 2-3 weeks. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, overall, I thought Brock Osweiler played well for Denver. It was a close game, and it could have went either way. And fortunately for the Broncos, it went their way.
Now, do you think for the Pats though that this loss maybe might help them a little bit? Give them a loss, and then it teaches the team to how to bounce back from a loss and.
Yeah, I don't think they look at their record that much as a team. I think they know that it's a long year. They're a team that likes to play their system. They like to win games their way, and I think even the week before they almost lost to the Giants, and they knew they're not. It's very hard to go undefeated. Carolina's still undefeated, but I just don't see them winning the whole year. NFL, it's a weird game. Anything can happen. So I just think when they are successful, they like to play their game, and I think through the whole year they're just gonna want to play their style,
right,
and see what happens.
Yep.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. They just got to get healthy too. More importantly, as a team, NFL, the winning teams are probably They're at the end of the day, they're healthy. They have all their good players, and they show up to the Super Bowl pretty much 90% of their starting rosters. So that's what it's all about, and I think they'll tell you that too. They want to play out the year. They're going to make the playoffs. They just want to play out the year, play solid football, and get healthy. So see what happens.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Definitely having a healthy team does help. I mean, you look at the Carolina Panthers and what they've been able to accomplish so far this year, the last undefeated team in the NFL. And just like you said, that's all because they're a very healthy, strong team right now. Looking at the Thursday night game, it was the Packers versus the Bears. Packers lost in a close one to the Bears. It was a Brett Favre night as well in Lambeau Field, where his number got retired. The Minnesota Vikings actually took over the Packers for their division. Do you see this hurting the Packers at all, a playoff chance, or just hurting them if they do make it in the playoffs going forward?
Well, I just see that they're very inconsistent this year, especially offensively. They look a little off. The Bears game was tough to judge because the weather was just terrible. Both teams were struggling. It's just, I don't know, you watch Rodgers play and you even look at McCarthy and the sidelines during the game and it just looks like they're a little off, a little, just don't know like if they're all on the same page at times. But Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers, and they have the Lions this week on Thursday as well, so they can easily get on track and put some pressure on the Vikings. I'm not fully bought into the Vikings yet, so this week will be big for the Packers. They definitely need a win, especially on the road. They got to seek revenge against the Lions, see what they can do there. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. They're definitely an inconsistent team this year, and we'll see what happens.
Who do you think? Who's your dark horse in the NFL this year?
That is a good question. Dark horse would probably be, as a Giants fan, probably be Redskins, Washington. They look good. They play well at home. That division is weak. They are 5-6, leading the division, tied with the Giants. But Cousins playing well offensively. If they can run the ball, get the ball going on the ground consistently, I think they'll be a good team going forward. They have the Cowboys coming up twice. They have the Eagles, so they have favorable schedules. So we'll see what happens. But they are one of the teams that I think they might pop out and have a playoff run if they can get there.
Yep, definitely a lot more football to come, and the season's halfway through. It's going to be an interesting finish for sure. We'll see what happens. That's the NFL story. Stay with us. We're going to talk Blue Jays coming up next. Welcome back. We're going to talk a little baseball. The Blue Jays sign and bring back a pitcher they used to have, J.A. Happ. They signed him to a 3-year, $36 million contract. Some Jays fans were not so happy. Some were. Matt, what's your take on the signing of J.A. Happ? How do you think that he fits in the rotation?
First of all, I was kind of shocked, surprised like everyone else. Friday night kind of came out of nowhere. But the Jays are known to do that. They kind of do pull deals out of the hat. Looking at it kind of now, 2-3 days later, I like it personally. I think getting a left-hander, he had a great second half of the season on Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Went 7-1, I think it was, and really pitched well. Kind of tinkered some of his mechanics, like he said, and I think he kind of turned his game around a bit. And he wanted, most importantly, and I like this about the deal, is he wanted to come to Toronto. And recently they have been having problems trying to recruit guys. Obviously this big playoff run helped a lot. And like he said, he's seen this playoff run as a fan. And he said he wanted to come back and help this team. And they are in a period of 2-3 years of winning. So they are kind of working on the rotation. I think there is a couple, 2-3 moves still out there to be had, and we'll see what happens. But I like it, and yeah, I think it's good. Get a nice left-hander, a bigger guy that will do well, I think.
Yeah, I definitely think he's going to fit into the rotation quite well. I mean, you got R.A. Dickey, he's coming back. Obviously, Stroman, he's going to be very healthy going into next season. And they signed Marco Estrada, which is a huge sign. I really like this rotation. I think it's good. A lot of people were mad that, they signed Happ and now they're not going to be able to sign Price. Hutchison obviously won't be in the rotation anymore. He'll be back in the bullpen, but I think that'll be the right fit for him. I think he'll be a good reliever in the bullpen. Again, some people aren't happy that if he were to be in the bullpen, some think he should be down in AAA. I don't think so. I think he should be up with this team, and I think he's going to be a great reliever. But yeah, I think the signing of J.A. Happ was the right call. Like you said, he had a great year in Pittsburgh last year. When he's with Toronto, he pitched well. Yeah. He got the Jays wins, and I think that's all that matters. And you look at the Jays offense, right? We're keeping Tulo, we got Donaldson, we got Batista, we got Eddie still. The offense is talked about a lot in the Jays, and I think it's a really strong rotation that's going to get the job done.
Yeah, to add to that point, when you have an offensive team like that, I think they realize at the end of the year is that let's try to keep the bats and just add depth to our pitching staff. And just add guys that can go out there, pitch 5, 6 innings, and just give them a chance to win. They don't need to spend a guy, like get a guy. Obviously, they would love to have Price, but they wouldn't need a guy like that to win. They can rather spend that money on 2, 3 guys, spread the depth out on the pitching rotation. And that way, if an injury or a poor performance like Hutchinson had this year, they can, hey, we'll slide this guy in, give him a shot. And I think that's what they're kind of doing, and then they're able to allocate the dollars throughout the system. So, like I said previously, we'll see. I think there's still 2, 3 moves to be had for this team, and we'll see what they do. But I think I definitely like what they're doing depth-wise, adding to the pitching staff. And then I think the next move will be the bullpen. There have been a couple rumors. We'll see what happens with the GM meeting start on Monday. So that'll be big. And yeah, the future is bright, I think, for this Blue Jay team.
Yeah, and you know, it's something that we haven't talked about yet is Sanchez too. Sanchez is definitely, if they don't get Price or another starter, he's that guy who can definitely come out of that bullpen. Osuna maybe. I still like him pitching out of the bullpen and being our closer, but he is definitely another option. But yeah, something that's definitely overlooked is Sanchez. He can come in. He could probably get the job done. Last call. We're going to talk a little puck. Stick with us. Leafs were welcomed in Washington on Saturday night. Decided to went with Bernier. Obviously, Reimer is out with an injury. They ended up losing the game 4-2. Decide tonight to go with Garrett Sparks. He'll be making his NHL debut. Matt, do you like the decision to not have Bernier in tonight and put in Sparks and give him a shot?
Well, I like it and I don't like it. And I'll tell you why I like it. Because Sparks, it's a very good story. He was in the ECHL last year, had a very good record. Like Babcock said today, had the best AHL save percentage this year. So he's having a very good and solid AHL season thus far. So he does deserve the shot. Why not? They're last place in the East right now. Let's see what he can do. But at the same time, Bernier is struggling with his game. And is he going to figure out his struggles in practice or in a game? And I believe it's going to be in a game. Because he's got to see the bodies going by. He's got to see traffic. He's got to deal with rebounds. He's got to deal with the atmosphere. And I think during his time with the Leafs, he was not really a good practice guy, it sounds like. And I just think they just throw him in there. And obviously Saturday he struggled. And I understand that. But he's got to fight through it. And I think the only way he's going to fight through it is with game action. So I see this as a good move and a bad move because of those two reasons.
I would completely agree with that. I think you need to have Bernier in. You need to give him some starts. You need to get him to the feel for the puck and everything like that. But it's also a good move. It's giving this kid a chance. They're playing Edmonton. They're last in the Western Conference, so it's a perfect opportunity to put Sparks in, give him a little bit of experience, give him his first NHL game, and see what he can become. Who knows? Maybe he could be the backup for the Leafs someday if they ended up trading one of their Bernier or Reimer this season. So I think I completely agree with you. I think it's a good move, but at the same time, a bad move. Could you see Lou Lamoriello trading one of these goalies this year?
I can.
Which one?
To trade them, they got to be playing well,
right,
and healthy, obviously. So at the moment, they would probably only be able to trade Reimer because they're paying Bernier big money to play. He's not playing well, and they're not playing him, so that's a problem. And obviously, his market value is probably pretty low. So to think of trading him, I don't think they're thinking that right now. I just think Reimer's a UFA possibly this summer. Bernier's on for 1 more year, so they're not really long-term commitment, either guy, so that's good for the Leafs management, because if they don't believe in either guy, they can kind of, work around that. So that's positive moving forward. And I think that's why they're not in a panic, because they don't have to be. And yeah, like before the deadline, there might be rumors, but I don't see them trading any one of them right now. But obviously, time can change.
Yeah, I think one of them's going to be traded. I think they need to figure out this number 1 spot now rather than later. That's my personal belief. I think one of the goalies needs to get an opportunity to prove to this organization that he can be a number 1, because I think right now it's just too back and forth, and it's great to have 2 outstanding goaltenders. There's no doubt about that. I mean, that's great for the Leafs, but I think you just need, like you were saying, I think one just needs to take hold and say, like, I'm the number 1. I'm going to be the number 1 for this team, and moving forward, I'm going to be the number 1 for this team. So it's definitely, like I said, an interesting topic, and the year is about, I think, in the first quarter mark of the way there. So it's definitely probably going to go on all year, but it's definitely interesting. I think you agree with me that, yes, they're last in the East, but they do have some good things going. Babcock has obviously helped this team out, and their offense has improved tremendously. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, like when you hear from other coaches and other players around the league, is that they're playing with structure, they're playing with a system. So that's positive. And they might not be winning, but that's part of because they're not scoring. And they do have Nylander leading the AHL in scoring, but they're being patient with him, which is 100% the right move. So I think what they wanted to accomplish, they are with, let's establish a system, an identity. That way when players are coming up, or we're trading for players, or we're signing players, or we're drafting players, whatever it may be, is, hey, this is Leafs hockey, this is how we're going to get it done. And then slowly they'll be able to move in their high-end draft picks, guys that can score, guys that can produce offensively. And they're going to be able to fit right in and score. And hopefully that's what happens, and that's what they want. Like, that's what they're looking for. So, yeah, like, I agree with what they're doing so far. It looks pretty good. When you watch them play, they're not losing games due to structure or hard work. They're working really hard. They have a pretty good structure going on right now. And obviously one of the biggest struggles is goaltending and the lack of scoring. But I think that's going to work its way over eventually as soon as they kind of turn over the roster. It might not be this year, it might not be next year, but I think with the prospects coming up, times in like the future is looking pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. I think you mentioned just a little bit in there that I just want to touch point on is I think the biggest thing you're seeing from them is heart. They're definitely going out there and they're giving it all they got. They know they aren't the best team.
Which was the problem.
Which was definitely a big problem, and you could see it. And the product on the ice this year is a lot different with them just going out, giving it 100%. And, it's been turning out, I think, into a season that a lot of people didn't expect. So I think it's definitely, the future of the Leafs is definitely bright. I think it's good news. I'd like to thank you for watching. If you didn't watch, well, your loss, I guess. But for me and Matt, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.